Hello, Igniters, and welcome to the Ignite Your Essence show. I'm your host, Michelle Wilson. And on our show, we are going to what we do is talk about ordinary people who do ordinary, extraordinary things. And we talk to entrepreneurs and leaderships, and we stream live on the Los Angeles Tribune, on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And please, if you want to leave a comment or ask questions, please do that. But this episode, we have an impactful show for you. We are going to be talking about money and finance with a mortgage note expert who also is known as a fund manager, Amed N. Hazel Sr. However, before we get started, let's learn a little bit more about Amed Hazel.
When I think of a successful businessman who had a dream and did the unthinkable, I think of Amed Hazel, who became his own bank with his wife, Rochelle. Amed N. Hazel Sr. has been in the real estate business for more than 20 years and works as a consultant in the real estate industry, specializing in non-performing notes. He created an algorithm that shows exit strategies and their profit margins so investors will know exactly how much profit is coming from a deal. Ahmed entered the real estate business as a wholesaler with his wife and partner, Rochelle. And in a very short span, they closed over 130 wholesale deals. They also incorporated short sales, lease options, rentals, and other real estate strategies. Amed Hazel is the co-founder and managing partner of Premier Capital Investments, LLC, Premier Fund Management Group, and Legacy Builders Management, LLC. Ahmed is an internationally recognized podcast personality, an educator, and the author and creator of Note Buying Cash Machine podcast and Private Banking Secrets, an online training platform for investors to learn the ins and outs of the non-performing note business. Amed Hazel is the published author of the best-selling Profiting from Non-Performing Mortgage Notes, which is sold on Amazon and carried by other publishers available, such as audible.com, and currently published in Spanish. Ahmed is also a contributing writer for the Billionaire Chronicle, an international publication for high net worth investors. You can find Ahmed on many stages, educating the masses on topics such as mortgage notes, authoring their own books, investment strategies, and other matters of personal finance and success. And now, a guest on Ignite Your Essence TV show, Amed Hazel. Welcome.
Welcome, Ahmed. So happy to have you and so honored to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, so Ahmed, your work, your body of work is phenomenal. As I said, we talk to ordinary people who become extraordinary. And, one of the fun facts that we learned about you when we were just going through your bio and so forth, that you were a young violinist. And I want to kind of go back a little bit because how did you become a violinist and now you're a, mortgage note expert? I just want you to share that journey with us a little bit.
Yeah, you're going way back. So, my mom, she had a very, she would say, because my mom was of humble means, and she would say, if it costs more than $5, you can't do it. So I remember one day when the, a teacher came to the school and she said she was showing these instruments and how much they cost to rent them per month. And, the trumpet was, $20 and the saxophone was $15. Well, when she got all the way down to the violin, it was $3.42 a month. So I said, that's less than $5. I think my mom will let me do that. So I begged and pleaded with her to let me play the violin. And then, I became a violinist from practicing a lot and eventually got accepted to Peabody Institute, which is a prestigious school, music school in Baltimore, and then got accepted into Baltimore City School for the Arts. And I was going there at the same time that, Tupac Shakur and Jada Pinkett was going there. I didn't know them, but I was there at the same time.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And I just want to really, as I said, you were a violinist and then you became a mortgage note broker. Can you just kind of share us, like, how did that transition happen?
It was a long journey. So from playing a violin, I taught myself how to play clarinet. I taught myself how to play saxophone. I went to Frederick Douglass High School in Baltimore City for music. And from there, one of the things that happened is I became a teen dad. So I couldn't finish high school because I had now a family to take care of. So I was senior class president, voted most likely to succeed, and now I had to drop out of school to take care of a family. So I did that. 2 years later, I went back, got my GED, eventually joined Montgomery County Fire Department. I was a fireman for close to 10 years. Loving that job, got injured on that job, had to retire. And then I found my way into real estate because my dad was constantly encouraging me to get into real estate. So once my wife and I got into real estate and we started closing a lot of deals, we started noticing trends in the market. And we started noticing a lot of people having these adjustable rate mortgages, which were subprime. We started looking at just data that most people wouldn't care to look at. We were looking at the data and seeing that, wait a minute, these are going to be underwater soon. And from that point on, essentially, we were running a martial arts school too. We were doing a bunch of stuff. And my wife said, she's like, sweetheart, I'm burned out. She's like, I just can't do this any longer. So I went to a mentor of mine and I said, we're burned out and I don't think we can, continue training. And he said, the Hazels are closing so many deals. You guys should be the bank. And when he said that, I don't know what happened, but it was like God spoke to me in that instant. It's like I got struck in the back of my head by a bolt of lightning. And then on the way home, I just talked to my wife about what would it mean to be a bank? What is the bank's primary product? Why and how are the banks, dealing with all these mortgages? And it took off from there.
Now, would you say the experience that you had in real estate prepared you for, starting your own bank during that process?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it gave us it made us familiar with the marketplace. It made us, but it gave us a different perspective because we got to sit in the homeowner's living room, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homeowners' living rooms, hearing their personal stories about issues that they were going through, what they were dealing with, and so forth. So that totally laid the groundwork for what we're doing now.
Amazing. Now, our topic today is actually, private banking using distressed assets. And before we go into our topic, can you just really describe to us what is a non-performing note? What exactly does that mean?
Sure. So when a homeowner gets a mortgage on a property, or any business, or it could be a skyscraper or a residential home, when someone takes out a loan for a mortgage on a property, they sign two important documents. And the first document they sign is a promissory note. That is a promise to pay back a debt. And then secondly, they sign the mortgage. The mortgage sort of enforces the note. So forth, if you don't make your payments on time, your payments are due this time, your interest rate is this. So the mortgage supports the promissory note. When a homeowner stops making payments completely, then that promissory note becomes what we call distressed. It's not generating any income. And when it's not generating any income, it becomes a huge problem for a bank or a financial institution.
So, what does the bank and financial institution do when this happens? Do the homeowners stay in their home? Do they, sell the home? What happens to that? And I guess that gets into our topic a little bit deeper. And how did you actually transfer into becoming the bank with these notes?
So when a homeowner stops making the payments, the institution has a decision to make. The institution is thinking, do we foreclose and reclaim this asset? And if we foreclose on this asset, let's say hypothetically, this asset is in New York City. Well, sometimes the foreclosure times in New York City could be 3 to 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
So the financial institution is thinking, do we want to be in a legal battle for 5 to 7 years over this asset that when we weigh the financial options, the legal battle would cost us more than even reclaiming the asset? So then what they look to do is they look to just be rid of it by selling it off to, another investor.
That's incredible. So that's why sometimes a homeowner will get a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, someone else owns your note." Is that what's happening? Is basically
Exactly.
right. And so, like you said, 7 to 8 years, it could be on the portfolio of a lender, right? And so during that period of time, they're not collecting any money or any assets, so it's just sitting there, and that's why you're saying it's distressed because they can't do anything with that. Can you share with us? I know it's been a while, but like the crash in 2008, I think we were talking about how these distressed, like how much distressed property is out there at this time.
So it's so much that banks are still holding trillions of dollars of distressed assets from 2008. So a lot of this debt, they don't know what to do with it, because releasing it all into the what we call the secondary market, when you release this debt into the secondary market all at once, it begins to destabilize other financial markets across the world. So, it's kind of like the banks are stuck in a way. Like they're like, what do we do? Because the bank doesn't want to be in the real estate business. The bank is in the finance business. So
Mm.
the banks are sort of stuck with deciding on, how do we release this debt? How much do we release? And who do we release it to?
And I just want to step back a little bit because you said what they do then is sell off that debt. But isn't it a loss to them when they do that? I mean, they're already not generating income, but when they actually sell it into the secondary market, are they losing money at that point in time?
No, not at all, because when the bank does that, they're alleviating themselves of many different problems. They're alleviating themselves from the federal criteria that they have to carry a certain amount of distressed assets on their books. So if the federal government says to a bank, you can only carry 10% of your total loan volume as distressed assets, but the bank has reached 35 to 45% on their books, it helps them by allowing them to get that bad debt off their books. And then secondly, all loans are FDIC insured up to $250,000. So a lot of times they're just getting their money back through the insurance company.
Wow, that's really powerful. So now you, as the investor purchasing these notes, how do you benefit? I mean, if the mortgagee hasn't paid their mortgage and so forth during that period of time, how do you, as a lender or an investor, profit from buying these notes?
Well, we have a superpower.
Okay.
And the superpower is that we're not a huge conglomerate organization. That's the superpower, because we can be flexible with the homeowner in ways that a financial institution can't be flexible with the homeowner. So we can allow the homeowner many different options to get back on payment plans. We can wipe away previous debt that the homeowner incurred and late penalties and fees, because essentially that money wasn't owed directly to us. It was owed to another financial institution. So now that we own it, day one, we can come in and say all of that back money that you owed, we can forgive that, and we're going to start you fresh. So from that point, now the homeowner is paying us their regular mortgage, just like they would be paying the bank, and they got a fresh new start at that point.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, you had shared with me that you run your company legally and ethically. Can you just kind of share what that really means? And it is with that relationship that you have with the homeowner, but can you share that story with me, how that really became your core value in your business? Oh, I think we lost your sound. We lost your sound. Lucy, are you muted? Let's get back. All right, we may have a little technical difficulty. Can we hear you now? You may want to step out of the green room and maybe come back in again, Ahmed. I mean, our conversation is phenomenal that we're having, learning about how the banks work with with their homeowners and lenders. So just give us a few seconds with that. I want to just kind of share a couple of resources that we're going to learn more about Ahmed. He has a Facebook group, and if you are interested in learning more about, learning about non-performing assets, and I think it's a really, just through the conversations that we've been having with Ahmed, it sounds like he's actually impacting the community in a very positive way. I know we're talking a little bit technical about, what notes are and so forth like that, but I really see that Ahmed and his wife Rochelle are making a difference in the community because they're able to save the homes of mortgage of homeowners. And as Ahmed was just saying, he's able to renegotiate the notes for homeowners and they're as investors so they can really get to the table and see what the needs of the homeowners are. Had a conversation with him recently and he was just sharing stories after stories after stories how he's able to make a difference. So we're really looking forward for Ahmed to come back. His company, there we go. You back?
How about now?
We can hear you now. So
Great.
yeah. So we're just going to go ahead and pick up. I was just sharing how through our conversations, how you're really impacting the community in a positive way because you do have that personal relationship with homeowners once you purchase the note from the existing lender. And we were just going into, your core value of just being, because sometimes you think is this legal, right? But legal and ethically and what that core value means to you and your wife, if you could share that with us.
Yeah, again, like I was saying, growing up, I had a mom that was, struggling financially, and she was always falling behind in her rent payments, and she would always work with the landlord and get back on track, and she'd be on track 5 or 6 months, and then she'd get back off track, and the landlord worked with her for years. She always paid, but she just needed some assistance. So when I was younger, seeing this transaction and the relationship happen between my mother and the landlord, I thought to myself, when I grow up, I want to be someone like that can help people. So our core value really is about helping people. Now we have to make money because we're a business, but our core value stands on helping people, not being a predatory lender, trying to figure out as many solutions and opportunities that we can find to actually help the homeowner better their situation. And because of that, we're looking for social currency as well. We're looking for to build communities, keep homeowners in their homes, keep families together, keep marriages together. This is one of some of the core values that we stand on. It's not just about the money.
And I want to talk a little bit about you and your business partner, Rochelle, because you are an amazing power couple and you're able to work together. And as you said, it's about community and keeping people in their homes. Can you share with us, just that working relationship and how you work together? I never, like I said, owning your own bank, it sounds something like the impossible, but how did that come about? How you two came together and really worked on this amazing project, which now is a business?
Rochelle is a phenomenal human being. first of all. Very, very intelligent, um, an amazing wife. And just as a side note, I remember when I got injured from the fire department for 2 years, I was in a depression. I couldn't work. I was injured. They weren't paying me. And Rochelle carried the family during that time, helping me get through a depression and an injury, So from that point, she was just like, sweetheart, we have to do something. Like we have to put something together to, begin to change not only our lives, but other people's lives. And what we did at that time is we started a martial arts school. We wanted to have a positive impact on the young people in our community. So we started a martial arts school that quickly took off. It was so huge that we were basically working around the clock with that. And then she, got burned out from us running so many businesses, and we had to scale back and look at how we could make a greater impact socially without it burning out our family. So a lot of times she's the brains behind what it is we're doing. She's putting systems together. She's looking at a lot of the numbers and the data, to decide, who gets a pass on their mortgage and who doesn't get a pass. So she's just a phenomenal person.
Now, you actually mentor and train others to do what you do. And is it a simple process? Is it, the education? Can you tell us a little bit more about how you help others, you know, who want to invest in the real estate market, not necessarily buy and sell real estate? Because you said your wife got burnt out. So it sounds like what you're doing now doesn't have as much stress involved. And so, can you share with us how you help others who want to do what you do?
Yeah, so we have a private Facebook group where we it's called Private Banking Millionaires, and what we do is we allow it's a free site. You can come in and just kind of learn about us and what we do. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to train people, bring them up to a level of sophistication where they can handle these mortgage notes and money coming in so that we can help other people throughout America. Like we want to make America strong. So we can do that by buying up debt and repurposing that debt and helping homeowners stay in their homes. You can make some money in the process of doing that. But again, we're helping people. So one of the greatest struggles that we have is that people have not been educated financially, and people are having a lot of internal doubt about what their abilities are. So for us, we struggle with that, helping people see their true potential.
I was in the real estate game several years ago, and I remember, buying my first house as a investment project and doing it along. And I know that it was really a nightmare for me, and I wish I had a mentor or someone to guide me along the way. So I think it's phenomenal that you're training others, and it sounds like the space is really wide open. I've heard that there's like to get into investing that you have like the accredited investor, and sometimes it is difficult to get into this space. Maybe you have the money, not the knowledge, or not the money, and you need the knowledge. Can you share a little bit about investing, period? About what is an accredited investor, and what can you do if you don't have those qualifications if you want to get into the investment field?
So, according to, and I'm gonna say this sort of loosely, right? This isn't completely exact. So make sure you go to the SEC.gov website to get the very exact definition, right? But generally, an accredited investor, the government gives this title to people that they consider to be sophisticated. So an accredited investor is someone that has made $200,000 in income over the past 2 years, or $300,000 as a couple over the past 2 years, and they have the foresight that they'll be making that in the future, or they have $1 million in net worth excluding their primary residence. In addition, there's a number of other categories, like if you're an insurance company or if you're a business and all of your all of your partners are accredited, etc., that the government gives this classification to. And the reason that the government, in all honesty, has made this distinction is the government, they don't want their citizens getting into investments and losing money that they weren't properly educated on the investment or what it meant or financial terms, etc. So you have accredited investors, and then you have everyone else that they call non-accredited investors. And knowing the difference between the two is huge, because if you're an accredited investor, then there's certain opportunities now that you have access to make even more money, because you are accredited and you are sophisticated and you do understand financial terms. So those people that are non-accredited then are sort of left to fend for themselves, right? Or to be in very low and risky opportunities, if any. So that's sort of the distinction between the two.
Now, Ahmed, I know you've been in the real estate industry for 20 years and an expert in note performing in 17 years with you and your wife. So how did you actually, were you an accredited at the time you got started, or how did you transition from just, the real estate industry into this? It's almost like exclusive because there's so many qualifications and so forth. So how did you make that transition?
We were working with a celebrity on closing one of their properties. The celebrity didn't want to go into foreclosure. The celebrity heard about me and my wife helping people avoid foreclosure or perform short sales, what have you. And this celebrity reached out to us and said, "Can you save my property? Because if you guys don't save my property, I'm going to lose my endorsements." So we started working with this celebrity. And from that point, the deal started to get a little shaky with the celebrity. And I told the bank, I said, we've been working closely with you guys. We have to bow out because the celebrity really doesn't want to do this deal any longer. So the bank said, "Well, how can we help you guys? You guys have put in so much work. How can we help you?" And on a whim, I just said, "I'd like to buy some mortgages," right? So I had been doing a lot of research and study. I didn't really know what that meant. And the bank president that I was talking to, he said, "Let me check with some of my friends and see what I can make happen for you guys." About a week later, I get a strange phone call, and I answered it. And it was a bank president from another bank who said, "Hey, Ahmed, we have a $25 million portfolio. We're looking to get $5 million out of it." So what happened was I reached out to the investor that was going to close on the celebrity's home. And I asked him, I said, "Well, you were going to put money over here. Would you like to buy this portfolio of homes?" And I set the relationship up, and that investor closed on a portfolio, but he didn't pay me any money as agreed.
Ooh.
So that really hurt so bad, because my wife was like, "Look at you, like, what are you doing?" Right? You doing all
Right.
this work and you're not even making any money, right? So but there was a silver lining that took place. And the silver lining was that president called and he says, "Hey, Ahmed, we appreciate what you did for the bank. And now we're going to spread your name all through the banking world."
Wow, that's phenomenal. So I hear two lessons. There's one, even though you kind of got burnt from that experience, because you could have just said, "I'm done. I want to quit," right? And the second one sounds like relationship, that social currency, that you had built that relationship, that trust, and knowing you and him reaching out to you. So I want to continue on with this story, but first I want to go to a commercial break and learn a little bit more about the Los Angeles Tribune.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And welcome back. We're with Amed Hazel, and we've been talking about private banking and using distressed assets. And Ahmed, we were kind of sharing the story about this vice president who called you. And even though the first deal didn't quite work out the way you expected it to, he called back and said, hey, we really like your professionalism, your style. And he had another deal for you. So tell us a little bit more about that. And was that the point where it's like, yes, I want to continue, working in this industry, in this field?
Yeah. So from that point, different banks just started reaching out saying, hey, Ahmed, we've heard about you and your wife, and we'd like to send you some of our assets. Would you take a look at some of our assets and see if you can help us? And, remember that I didn't know really anything about mortgage notes. And I mean, I had been reading stuff, but I didn't really know anything about how these assets are actually traded, bought and sold. And so through essentially quick education, we learned and had to actually teach banks how to work with private companies. So we had to get attorneys to draft documents and things like that so that they could work with us, because for a great deal of time, a lot of financial institutions were only used to working with other institutions. So, deal flow started coming in. And as deal flow started coming in, my wife and I, brick by brick, just started building this infrastructure on, what we needed, and, dealing with different vendors to help us, move this product as quickly as possible.
Being an entrepreneur is kind of like being on a roller coaster ride, right? It's up and down. And I remember part of your story when you talked about this deal that came through, and they wanted to use an escrow company. And then you went through like 11 attorneys. And can you share that with me? Because I think it's really profound, because there was 11 attorneys that said, no, you can't do this. This is illegal. There's no way it can be done. But you didn't give up. And the 12th, attorney said yes. And just why does that happen in business? Is like, there's different perspectives when it comes to especially the legal system and so forth. So can you give us a little light on that?
Yeah, so we were reaching out to attorneys for help. And so many of them were saying that, no, this is illegal. And the reason that they were saying that is because they didn't understand. So because they didn't understand it, they just said it must not be legal. But I happened to run into one attorney, and I actually just left a message on his voicemail. And I flew to Chicago for an event. And when I was walking into the hotel, my wife called me on my cell phone, and I was like a little irritated, like, man, she's calling me, and she knows I'm getting ready to go into this event and speak. And when I answered the phone, she said, the attorney said he can close the deal. She's like, he explained the whole thing to me. So so many times it's due to either them not knowing or the interpretation of the law. So this one attorney who was an escrow attorney said, sure, I can hold the escrow. I know how to handle the documents when they come in. You don't have anything to worry about. And the deal went through flawlessly. And I'm going to tell you a gift that attorney gave to me. a huge gift. He said to me, he said, Mr. Hazel, he said, I appreciate your business. He said, however, you don't need me to hold escrow for you. He said, because with the business that you're doing, essentially, you are a financial institution in and of itself. He said, so you don't need anyone to hold escrow for you. And what he did in that moment was he began to teach me who I was
Wow.
and what I had become. And that was just mind blowing for me.
That is a phenomenal story. And talk about that paradigm, the paradigm shifting, and you were operating as an institution and you didn't even know that you were operating. So education and knowledge is power, but it's getting it applied and then actually connecting with the right people who really understand what you're doing. So can you share, and on that deal, can you just share with us? I know it's kind of private, but how much did you make on that deal? And then how long did it take you to close that deal?
So that deal, that particular deal with the attorney holding escrow was high five figures. And we did that deal. It was in less than 3 days. So the actual transaction itself was less than 24 hours, but I had to do some aligning on the buyer side and some aligning on the seller side. So it took about 3 days to get it done.
And the reason why I asked that question, because like I said, I was in real estate before, and I remember, being an agent, a deal could take 3 months to close, right? So why is there a difference when you're selling or purchasing a home that it takes, 3, maybe 6 months to close a deal, yet in the banking industry and the note industry, it takes less than, 24 hours sometimes, it sounds like.
Yeah, we can close deals in minutes because banks are used to moving huge amounts of deal flow in a day. A bank may want to move $50 billion worth of deal flow in a day. And, so much so that I don't think they do it any longer, right? There was a huge sort of controversy about this back around 2006, where the banks had developed a system called MERS, and it was a machine that basically just signed all the documents, right? The machine
Wow.
was signing the documents, right? So the bank is moving so much of this debt back and forth between institutions on a daily basis that it's a fast-paced business. So they're not looking at, well, the property and let's go out and do a termite inspection and we got to have this and have that. No, they're moving just the paper. So because the debt is transferring so fast, they don't have to worry about, what's going on with the property because the bank doesn't own the property. The homeowner owns the property. The bank just owns the paper.
That promissory note, right? The paper that you're
Exactly.
talking about. So I want to go circle back again because you made a distinction. You said institution and private banking, and then you have the big banks. And there's a quote that she said, if I could bring it up real quick, and let me see if I could bring up this quote because I really enjoyed this quote that you said, and I want you to kind of dig deep. You said, what is that quote? Let me find it really quick. You buy the bankers for the bankers of the bankers. I want you to expand on that, and I want to know if it has to do with this private and institution, because I'm really looking for some clarity here because you're talking about a subject that is, I don't think the average person is really aware, but the average person can participate. Am I right?
Yes. So we're a society that is run by the banking system. And we can debate on many different topics all day long, but nothing really happens without the bank's approval or the financial investors' approval, right? Let me just clarify and say nothing happens without those elite financial bankers' approval. So, just understanding that, right, changed my life because I said, well, then it's clear where I need to be. And the more I got into just the mortgage notes and understanding, the system and understanding being in high level rooms where bankers talk and just being in that community, I began to see the code in the matrix. And I was like, aha, I got it. So we're not a licensed bank through the Federal Reserve. When we use the term private banking, right, we're simply talking about, the concept that homeowners are paying us as if we were the bank, right?
Mm.
However, when a bank talks to me, they recognize my language patterns, they recognize the topics that I bring up, and they see me as such. So they deal with me as such.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that, because why would a big bank want to speak with a private lender? So it's really in through the education and that you know what they're talking about. And is that what you do in your mentor program? Because like if I try to pick up the phone and call the bank and say I want to, purchase a portfolio, your assets, would they even speak to me at that point in time?
No, they would most of the time they wouldn't even know what you were talking about, right? So there's just different departments, and you have to know how to locate those departments and weed through the gatekeepers, right? You got to sort of know the password and the secret knock, to actually get through the gatekeepers. But once you do and you get to the decision makers, then they automatically recognize who you are and what it is, you're calling for.
Now, just kind of circling back again, we talked about, the accredited investor, and the reason why we have the accredited investors because the government's really trying to protect the individual and so forth. So, in your journey, had you experiencing any type of financial losses when you were first going in, because you were going into an industry that you didn't really know about and you were learning as you go, learning and earning as you go? So, was there a deal that, I know you talked about your first deal where you didn't get paid, but was there a deal that you had gone through that you were working through and you lost your investment? Like, how risky is it?
So anytime you're making any type of investment, there's a 100% chance that you can lose your investment capital. And if you are not emotionally prepared for that, then you shouldn't be investing at all. You should just be, a 9 to 5 or just working your job, right? So there's a level of emotional detachment that I work with my students on, being detached from the outcome of the investment. However, early on, I was involved in a deal, and it was for I think like an eightplex in Philadelphia. And the bank says, they say, well, hey, Ahmed, you can buy this note, and this note is only, let's say is $12,000. So I'm like, Rochelle, we need to get on this. The bank is, they chop, they ready to go. And I took all of the money that I had in my bank account at the time, and I bought the deal.
Mm.
And I sent a realtor out to look at the deal, and the realtor said, Ahmed, the front of this eightplex is beautiful. However, the backside of the eightplex is burned down.
Wow.
So there had been a fire like 3 days or 4 days before that I didn't know about and the bank didn't know about. And essentially, that was a property that it's not anything that I can do with that at that point. So I lost $12,000. And as a married couple, that ain't go well with my partner.
And you talked about emotional courage and you talked about risk, but how did you overcome that and work through that? And, $12,000 loss, that another thing you could have put in the towel and say, I quit, right? So how did you, go from a $12,000 loss and continue on this journey?
So after I dealt with the days of tongue lashing from my wife, right? It was bad too, right? Rochelle's tough, right? She's a tough businesswoman. So what wound up happening is I was sitting in my home office, and I was, just trying to think, and I was going through like a lot of emotional turmoil, like how could I have done that? Why didn't I check first? You know, why would the bank treat me that way? We've had a good relationship, so that was like I could feel myself beginning to spiral out of control. And something occurred to me. A small voice spoke to me, and the small voice said, "Call the bank and talk to them about it." Okay, so I called the bank up and I said, hey, this is Ahmed Hazel. Hey Ahmed, how's it going? I said, it's okay, it's going okay. I said, that last deal that I bought from you guys, I discovered something, really crazy about the deal. The front side of the deal looks amazing. I said, but the back side is burned down. And the asset manager said, wait, what? And I said, yeah, the backside is burned down. So the asset manager said, hey, Ahmed, we didn't know. We're sorry for that. We can't refund you your money, but we can make this loss up on the next trade that we do with you. And they did many, many, many times make up the loss on that particular deal.
Wow, phenomenal. And we're getting some great comments like listen to the small voice when it speaks by Jasmine. I also have Tanya here. She says lessons learned on due diligence. We learned that in the Hazel's mentorship program. So it sounds like she's probably one of your students. So, it's amazing how that's the way you learn, right? Through these missteps and mishaps. And I want to go back to the notes because we've been talking about homeowners, but isn't there different types of notes out there that you can actually? Would you say it's a purchase? I'm learning the language. So, as a as a banker, do you call it a note when you're calling into these banks? But I know there's different types of notes. Can you share with our audience what those types of notes are?
Yeah, there are notes on everything. So you can acquire notes on cars. There's a huge industry for that. You can acquire notes on yachts, notes on private jets, so many different things, land. Sometimes it might be an airport that is in default, and you got people flying in and out of the airport every single day, but the airport might be in default and the bank is looking to offer that mortgage up to get that debt off of their books. So it's credit card debt. There's so many things that an individual can be involved in as it relates to notes. And we say mortgage notes, it's a misnomer because those are two separate documents. But we say that just to indicate that we're talking about specifically a note on a piece of property.
And I also heard that there's notes on cities, right? Can you share us a little bit about the city note and if a person is interested in purchasing the city, what would that entail?
Yeah, it's certain cities will be sold as well. So if you have the capital, and we're not talking a lot of times about a lot of capital, sometimes there are cities that are sold for, $1 million or less. And
Mhm.
we're talking about the city may have a bank, a post office, a fire department, a police department. It might have, 2,500 homes. There's a number of things that this city might have that you can buy the note on the entire city. So um America essentially is for sale for those that are sophisticated, trained, and ready to buy in the effort of helping America, not hurting America.
I love that. You said helping America, not hurting America. And I know you also have a book. You have your mentorship program, but you're a podcaster, speaker, trainer. But tell us a little bit about your book that we can get on Amazon if we want to. Maybe we're just interested and want to learn a little bit, how to get started. Can you just share a little bit about your book?
Sure. So this book, and writing the book was such a soul search because I wanted to write the book where it was accurate, but I didn't want to include so much legal terminology in the book that it would confuse the average person. So I wanted it to be in common language. So after so much time of just, wrecking my brain, I said, okay, I need to write this and just tell this from the perspective of my personal story. And, I lay out the process in the book and how you can be in this industry. And I give terminology on what you need to know and, best practices. And you can get that on Amazon. We also have, you can get it in our private Facebook group that's free. And you can also get a signed copy from mortgagenotesbook.com.
Thank you so much for that. Now, we'd love to ask our guests an important question from Buck Minister Minister, and actually we call him Bucky,
Yeah,
and we're going to bring
Buckmeister.
it. Fine, Buckmeister. Thank you. Just had a little brain freeze right there, so thank you so
Sure.
much, Ahmed, for that. And we're going to bring up that question because we really believe in his philosophy. So, how do we make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without ecological damage or disadvantage to anyone?
It's an easy question to really answer. And the answer to the question is a fundamental principle of Buckmeister Fuller. And the fundamental principle is leverage, right? So
Mm,
that's what we're doing when we are buying and selling distressed asset. Listen, so these assets are considered trash on Wall Street. No one wants them. And the reason that no one really wants them is that there are no commissions paid on it. So they just discard it. However, uh, Rochelle and I, we saw that, wait a minute, there's homeowners behind this trash investment. There's a family, there's children. Remember, we were talking to these people in their living rooms. So we realized, wait a minute, through leverage, we can create a very profitable business for ourselves. We can help homeowners. We can help rebuild the infrastructure of America. It's a win-win-win. So we can do so many things just simply using the concept of leverage to make our country and our world a better place.
well, I love what you said, leverage, and it's about the win-win-win. Win for not only you, but win for the homeowner, but also a win for America or the community, right? Because you're saving people's homes and they can continue to live in the home. So it's just not a transaction or a business deal. And I think it's really unique. Like you said, you were doing short sales, and so you saw the homeowner being distressed, right? Yeah, the lender is distressed, but what about the human being on the other side being distressed? And so it sounds like you've learned through this journey, you and your wife learned how you can do both, how you can make it a win-win-win situation. So it's been such an honor, and I just want to give the floor to you. Is there anything that you like to share with us that I haven't asked, the golden question, or your last thoughts of this conversation? You're amazing what you and your wife are doing, and I'm looking forward to really continuing this conversation because I know this is a conversation that it takes some time to unpack, especially because it's a conversation that we don't have on a regular basis. It's not an everyday conversation. So I find that you are fascinating what you and your wife do. But please share with us any last thoughts.
Well, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share. It's really been a pleasure. I really enjoyed this. One of the points that I want to really drive home uh, first is that to be in this space, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So that's why my wife and I created the free Facebook group to allow people to come in to see that we're just normal people, to hear our story and see if our vibe is attractive to you, to see if we're somebody that you want to be connected with. So that's point number one. We're not forcing anybody to do anything, but we just want to share. If a person wants to then elevate, then we have coaching and training programs for people to be involved in. The ultimate goal, again, and some people may have this opinion. They may say the banks are the villains. The banks are, bad. And our position is like the banks are doing a fabulous thing, and we're trying to align with them as best that we can to be a mediator between them and the homeowner. So if they want to liquidate their assets to us, then we accept those assets. If they want to have us step in and work with homeowners, then we step in and work with homeowners. So, this is the concept that we are trying to put forth to the world. We need sophisticated people that's ready to learn and earn.
Learn and earn. And so I have a question for you. Like, a person is like, oh, well, I'm too late. There's too many people in the space. A person who's getting started, is it too late to get started? Because it feels like, well, if I, want to join your program mentorship, I'm doing the same thing that you're doing. So how does a person be able to become their own private bank? Also being in the, you have the Facebook group. So everyone's really looking to do the same thing. Is there competition there?
Well, no, again, Buckmeister Fuller, he teaches, collaboration and cooperation too. So we collaborate and we cooperate with each other on deals, deal flow, buyers, sellers, joint venture partnerships. This isn't about a scarcity mindset. Remember, I said the banks are still holding trillions of dollars from 2008. So if they're holding trillions of dollars from 2008, know that in 2009, there's a natural attrition that the bank is going to have as a loss anyway. And that piles on to the debt from 2008. In 2010, there's going to be another natural attrition that happens anyway, and that piles on to the debt from 9 and 8. So all of this has been happening over the years, and it's just piling up. So no one company, no one entity can buy it all. So we're like, it's enough for everyone to come and learn and earn.
I love what you said, learn and earn, and it's really having that abundance mindset, right? It's about sufficiency and abundance. And so it sounds like you're building a phenomenal community, not only for people who want to learn and earn, but you're, really impacting and giving back to the community and keeping, the homeowners in their home, keeping families together. So I just want to acknowledge you and your wife, and, just want to congratulate you. And we're really looking forward to having you on the show again, because what you're sharing with us is so much wisdom. But as I said earlier, knowledge is power, but only if used. And then it's like, once your mind is expanded, you can never go back. But the topic matter, the subject matter is so diverse. So thank you so much for joining us, Ahmed. And we're really excited to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So with that, I'm just going to say thank you for joining us. Want to remind you that we are here every Wednesday evening with Michele Quevedo at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then I'll be back next Thursday at 11 a.m. And so just want to thank you for just joining us. And with that, we want to ignite your essence.